Hello, and welcome back to the Change Different Podcast. This is your host, Colton Burbridge, and this is my producer slash co-host, Kieran. How's it going?
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to podcast number 5. Wow, let's get into this, man.
Yeah. First things first, how are you?
I'm
How's your
doing
day
good,
been?
man. I didn't do shit today. I took like a 5-hour nap in the middle of the day, and I'm probably not going to go to bed tonight. I got to get up for work tomorrow, but it's too damn hot out, man. It was like 113 degrees. I'm not going outside unless I have to. So, spent all weekend inside.
Yeah, that's the one thing about down there. Riding dirt bikes probably sucks at 113 degrees.
It's miserable. How about yourself? How was your weekend?
It's pretty good. Hit up a semi-local track on Saturday. Today, just went to church and hang out with the family and stuff, but it was good. So
It's good, man.
speaking of that local track, it wasn't too local. I went to I-90 MX Park with my cousin Bill and my brother Wyatt. It's pretty decent. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I don't think I'm gonna make that effort to drive 3 hours to go there again. I mean, it's a cool place. It just was really different in my opinion. It's a good place to check out. Like if you're into riding and everything, it's one of those spots where it's. I personally wasn't like a huge fan of it, but I'm positive other people will think highly of it. It's a cool place. It's really small. They can't really hold anything there because, I mean, there was maybe 30 vehicles there, and it was hard to park because everybody was stacking on top of each other. It was pretty difficult. So I can't imagine them holding any sort of event because they can't fit anybody. They would have to tear down a lot and clear a lot and kind of grade to even get good amount of parking, which they totally should they'd make a lot more money on the weekends.
Can't even fit any trailers in there.
No, I saw like 2 trailers there and it took up most of the spots. Like it was weird, but they could do a lot to host races. I think they're just too far away and not enough people know about them to really do that kind of stuff. So they need a little bit more of a response, and they need a little help on the track side of things. They had a nice dozer. They had a big water truck. They were pretty adamant about watering it, which was okay. I mean, they really tried. I can get into that here in a minute, but other than that, it was a cool place. Like I said, I'm not really going to try to go back anytime soon unless somebody wants me to go with them. But if you haven't gone before, it's a good place to check out. Anyway, got there, 3-hour drive. I'm used to that. A lot of tracks
3-hour
around here,
drive.
about a 3-hour drive. So
where's that at?
It's in Vantage. It's right next to it's not what's it called? The big racetrack out there. I can't remember anymore. But Mattawa is literally right next to it. And it's Horn Rapids. Horn Rapids is another about the other way from there. But even then, like Horn Rapids isn't even that good either when you get to it. I mean, you have to go there when they hold a race series to even get a prepped track. Like when we go there during the Nork series and we go there to race the endurance races, they don't have the track prepped at all. So it's hell to ride on because all the jumps are just destroyed and gnarly and can't jump it without hitting a face that's all caved out and super sketchy. But it was kind of like that to where they needed a little bit of a better person on the dozer to help out on the track. They needed to spend some more time prepping at this track. It was super diverse, in which I'm saying like they practically split the track down the middle the whole way, other than the big jumps, but everything else was like multiple different lines to take. As I'm saying, like on one side of the track there'll be double. On the other side, there'll be a single table. On one side of the track, there'll be a single to whoops, and the other side will be a single way far back to another table. And it was so hard to get used to because of how different the track was everywhere. Like you couldn't ride in a
Really?
spot. Like you had to get used to like half the track, in which I'm saying literally the track split down the middle. You would have to get used to the one side of the track the whole way around, and then go like get used to that side, start doing that side a lot, and then you'd have to switch over to the other half of the track, literally split down the middle. That like not like one side, like the left side versus the right side. This is like literally split down the middle, both sides. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but it's kind of hard to explain of how different it is. So
I feel like it's you have no rhythm on that track. Like, you
yeah,
don't
there's
have.
literally no rhythm. Like if you're trying to pass someone, you have to go in a whole different rhythm section than what you've been practicing the whole time, and it's super hard to get used to keep doing that. So it was cool and everything. We had to do 20-minute motos. They had a big bike fast, a big bike slow, and then they had a kids portion, and so that was 20 minutes apiece. And then they would water the track for it seemed like 45 minutes to an hour. They'd drive the truck around the whole entire track and water it, and they would make a lot of spots pretty muddy, like for how dry and hard pack and dusty it is over there. I actually came back with a muddy bike. It was really odd because they
Really?
watered the hell out of some spots, and then other spots was dusty, and it was like, I don't know, it was kind of pointless. It made it really slick because when your tires are all wet hitting the hard pack of the like dusty hard pack, it's like it's super slick. I can't explain it, but it was odd. They really
So you
tried.
guys
They would
just went out there.
good.
You guys just went out there for a practice day.
Yeah, it wasn't anything going on. Just out there to have fun.
Okay.
So, but yeah, they really tried. They would break out the dozer here and there, and it'd kind of make a better. Like if someone asked, or I don't know if anyone asked or not, but they would break out the dozer to get a lip going again, and they break out the water truck a bunch, and which seemed like forever. Like I said, it seemed like it took up the whole day. I only think I was out there for four 20-minute motos, which it's far drive. You had to pay $35 a piece to get in, and I only got to go out there for an hour and 30 minutes maybe. So I don't know if it's a spot I would like to go back to be honest, but it was cool to experience it for the first time at least. So
that's cool. So that's right out by Vantage. Did
yep.
you guys go ride at Vantage too?
No, we just were at the track most of the day. We had graduation parties at the end of the day, so we just had to make it back home for those. But yeah, it's pretty much like if you go over the I-90 bridge there, and then you keep staying on I-90 instead of taking a right to Mattawa. It's pretty much like as soon as you drive past this big steel horses, that exit right there, and then it's maybe half a mile down the street there, and it's right there on the side of the road. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's cool for the local people. We met a few people that were local, and it's where they go out to ride all the time, and they've never been to our west side tracks. Our muddy, soft, sandy, like clay and bark tracks and everything like that, like Grace Harbor or Riverdale or anything. So they're like, oh, cool, I gotta go check those out. And so it's like, yeah, people, there's actually a huge, diverse track scene in Washington, and to hit all of them and to get used to all of them is pretty hard. So it's cool though. I'm glad we have that kind of diverse
especially
tracks.
especially out there on that east side. I mean, you see that out there at Odessa, like just dry, hard packed or sand, and then but as soon as you get some rain on it, it's just a mud bog. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's very different, and it's crazy that how big of a difference you can get of riding by driving only an hour away. I mean, you drive 1 hour away, you can either be You can be in the desert. You can be in the mountains. You could be in the over by the ocean where it's insanely wet, hard packed woods. I mean, there's all sorts of riding you can do out there in that state, which does make
Yeah.
it very versatile, but it does make it rough to get used to riding there if you're going to be riding all the different tracks out there.
Yeah. But it's cool. That's why I think we have so many good Washingtonian pros. Like there's been quite a bit that has gone through the ranks. So I think that's a huge part of why we have guys that are good, because we have some of the hardest places to ride in the whole country. So, well, enough of that. We're going to get into some motocross. First of all, last weekend, Hangtown left out some information that I learned after the podcast that actually came out the next day. So we wouldn't even have known anyway. But RJ Hampshire ended up taking a digger, and he landed on one of the wood stakes holding up a Acerbis sign, and it ended up going through his armpit and broke like three or four ribs, and actually punctured his lung,
That's
which
insane.
is super gnarly.
I've seen a lot of
So
crashes in my days, but I never seen one that gnarly.
yeah, I mean, it probably happened so fast where you didn't even think anything happened. But that sounds horrible. I can't imagine just hitting the ground so hard and rolling off the track and everything, and then getting up and thinking you have to keep going, and then realizing there's something inside of you that is making it so you can't breathe, and that would be terrible.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's the worst too. When you get in an accident like that, I mean, with all the adrenaline running, you don't even realize what happens. I mean, like when I blew my knee out, my first instinct was, "Ow, that hurt. I need to get up and run it off." And as soon as I
Yeah,
stood up, I collapsed.
yeah,
You don't realize it right at the second, and then it fucking hits you.
yeah.
That's crazy. That is not something to joke around with. I hope he gets
No,
better from that.
no,
That's
not at
gonna
all.
probably be quite a while.
Right? Yeah. I also made a mistake in the last podcast. My brother enlightened me that Carson Mumford is not on Twisted Tea Suzuki. I'm pretty sure he's on the Bar X Suzuki team. So
Oh,
that was
RX.
my
Okay.
mistake. The Bar X Suzuki team. So that's
It's all right. Still riding with Suzuki.
yeah. I mistake that. So anyway, my bad. Getting into something about 2023. Jordan Smith signed with Star Racing Yamaha, Star Racing Yamaha for 2023 for Supercross only. He's a really good Supercross rider. He was on a Honda team. I'm pretty sure he was on the same team. I'm not 100% sure. I think he was on the MOTO Honda team. Pretty sure. He was a privateer, so he was just there to go along with things, but he actually had some heat wins, and he had a Supercross win as well. So he's a really good rider. They just upgraded from a 6-man 250 team to a 7-man 250 team. Isn't that freaking insane? 7 guys on their
That
250
is
team.
insane.
That is a lot of
I'm
fucking
sure
money.
I'm sure they're gonna look at if maybe another one or two people at least once the season starts.
Well, I keep praying for the day that they sign Carson Brown. I want them to sign Carson Brown so freaking bad. It's not even funny. But
I don't know. He's got a pretty decent deal over there at AEO going on right now.
yeah.
They
Well, I
did
don't think
pretty good last year.
he's not even with them anymore because he was just filling in for an injured guy. So
Yeah.
I'm
He did
sure
pretty
that he'll
good.
find something for Supercross next year because of how good he was doing. I mean, he was beating Derek Kelly at most of races, and he was AEO's main guy. So
Yeah.
I hope they sign him, but either or, I just hope Carson gets signed in general because I want to see him back in Supercross really bad. He's
Yeah,
my local guy. He's one of my favorite guys ever, including Mr. Levi Kitchen. Dude,
Mr.
1-5
Levi
for third.
Kitchen.
Holy cow, dude. I was so nervous watching Moto 1. I was so nervous. Like, Levi got the most badass hole shot ever. He just absolutely took off. He was bike lengths ahead in the
Yep,
second corner. He was going over the first couple of jumps, full flat whips, just taking off. Didn't even, like, left everybody in his dust. And Jet Lawrence made it all the way to 2.5 seconds behind him before, I don't know if Jet was just kind of like, screw it, I'm going to stay here, which I don't really believe because there was only about 14 minutes left when Levi started pulling
mm-hmm.
away. But Levi started putting in the fastest lap times of anybody and the fastest lap of the day for any 250 rider right at that 14-minute mark and was pulling away from Jet. And by the time the race ended, Levi had almost a 9-second lead on Jet Lawrence, which is
That's
freaking
crazy.
sick. Yeah. It made me so freaking happy to see him do that good in his practically rookie year. It's his first moto win, and then he went and got a bad start in the second moto, ended up
And he ended
crashing
up in
with Nate
fifth.
Thrasher, his teammate, and that put him back to 11th around the, I want to say it was like the 20-minute mark. It wasn't that far in, but it was still far enough in to where he needed a lot more time to get up there.
Mm-hmm.
But that put him back to 11th, getting on the ground like that, and then he made his way all the way back up to 5th place, and he was in 5th place up until like the third to last lap, second to last lap, because Joe Shimoda put up a fight. But he really needed that 5th because that gave him that podium if he didn't get that 5th. And Cooper lost uh second. What did Mosman get? Because Mosman passed Cooper, and that's what caused Levi to get on the podium.
In the second moto,
Yeah,
or second moto,
just
Mosman got fourth. He got 13 in the first, so he got seventh overall.
yeah. So Mosman
And
passing
then,
Justin Cooper, caused, pretty sure it was Mosman, but that's what caused Levi
yeah,
to get on the podium. So super happy for him. I'm so excited for that. I'm really excited to see how he does at Washougal, his home track, and I'm super excited for this year for him because I just want to see him do really good, and I want to see him stay with that team. I like him on Yamaha. He's always been a Yamaha kid ever since, like, me and Kieran saw him at Supercross Futures down
Phoenix.
there in Phoenix, and he kicked everybody's ass on a YZ250, and he went to Loretta's that year and kicked everybody's ass on a YZ250, and I don't think he could do that on any other bike because he's just so attuned with YZ. So he probably could, but I like to see him on blue. It's just where he fits.
He's been killing it on that bike for the past couple years.
Yeah, it's
But yeah,
super
if we
cool.
got our first place standing, Jet Lawrence got second place in both motos. Hunter Lawrence in second place with fourth in Moto 1, first place in Moto 2,
Mm.
and then Levi Kitchen in third, and then Justin Cooper in fourth. Yeah, man, it was good racing out there.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a good track. Really high elevation, like 60, 66, 6,700 feet.
Yeah, you could
So,
definitely see it, especially when Levi was done, finished with Moto 1. He was huffing and puffing. They were trying to cool him down just because of the elevation and
mhm.
the getting warm up there and that humidity. It was just killing these guys out there.
Yeah, they said it peaked at like 90, 91 degrees. So super humid. It didn't even look sunny at all. I think it was sunny for 450 Moto 1, but the rest of the day was overcast and like low 90s. So that would suck being doing a 30-minute moto in that kind of rough terrain, that high of an elevation at low 90s.
Yeah.
Hot
Yeah, that's
stuff.
rough. Speaking of hot stuff, Sexton crashes last lap and he loses the lead to Roxon, causing Tomac to lose overall.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, so Tomac had the overall with Roxon behind Sexton because he got second, and Tomac got first in the first moto. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would have made Ken Roxon go 2-2, and then that would have made Tomac go 1-3, which for some reason that gives, since Tomac got the first place in one of them, that he would get the overall. But since Sexton crashed, and that made Ken Roxon go 2-1, and then Tomac went 1-2
1-3.
or 1-3. I mean, so yeah, that's
And
what
Sexton went
caused.
4-2.
Yeah, 4-2. So Sexton wouldn't even have had. He would have had third on the podium, I think. But yeah, that sucks. That's just crazy how those little things can happen. Like I saw an interview with Tomac, and he was saying that Sexton even came up to him after and was apologized for that bonehead move he made, and he's like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And Sexton was like, "If I didn't crash, you would have got the overall." And he was like, "Oh man, whatever." They were just bitching about it, but it is what it is. That's what motocross is. How it's scored, how it gets it done. But even in the first moto or the second moto, Tomac decided to give it a break because he was all over Ken Roczen there at the end. But he started experiencing brake fade, as the interview with Vital MX that he said. On the last lap, causing him to slow down and not pursue Kenny as hard because it was a lot harder to get around those downhills and those ruts without that rear brake. And so anyway, that's something that they got to change in the future with that brake fade for Eli. I'm sure he uses and abuses those brakes, especially for that kind of track. He is really known for beating a bike to its limits. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious to what Yamaha does for the next one, for those really rough tracks to help that, because that was a factor in why Eli lost that overall. So
Yep. We got our first standing, Ken Roxon. Second place, Eli. Third place, Chase Sexton. Fourth, Anderson. Caroli fifth. Ryan Dungey sixth overall score.
which is pretty
He's kind of,
sick. I'm surprised he's staying up there like that.
yeah. I mean, he's been consistent. He's consistently around that place. About fifth, sixth place so far. He got 7 in both motos 1 and 2. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about consistency. Even if he's down that far later on in the season, I mean, if he's not making huge mistakes and he's not crashing and getting, further positions back, his point standing is going to hold up pretty
Yeah.
decent. So,
Yeah.
another honorable mention, Christian Craig had kind of a rough race. I didn't really see what was going on with him. I think he had some really bad starts. He came
Yeah.
in
He
12th
also hit the
overall,
deck in
10 in the
the
first
second
moto.
moto.
Oh, did he? And then
Yeah.
12th in the second moto.
Yeah, that sucks. I wish he would have
Mhm.
kept. I mean, that kind of hurt him real bad for the points. He was up there in the first 2 races, and he was going to be one of those guys competing for the overall, for the championship. But he can't do that anymore. He can't be not a top 10 guy or even a top 5 guy if he wants to compete for this championship. So he'll shake it off. It was a really hard track. People struggled quite a bit. So he'll come back. I know he will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully we'll see him climb back up there. He was doing really good in the start of the season. But yeah, that was a rough track out there. And unfortunately that it counts, you'd be getting placed if you're placing that low, it's gonna really affect you.
Yeah.
But
Switching up, going to some Supercross stuff where they have some new 250 rules. So before last year was the last year of this, but they to be in the 250 class, you had to be like a rookie or you had to be newer to Supercross, and they made it so if you have 2 championships or this much points, or if you're this age, you had to move up to the 450 class. And so many guys have spent their entire career in the 250 class and have done really successful and have been that's just what they want, and it totally makes sense. I mean, if you are riding 250s and you are comfortable there and you're making your money and you just want to chill, and you're not the greatest guy but you're not the worst guy, you're a top 10 guy or maybe a top 15 guy, and you're loving what you're doing, that's fine. There's lots of guys like that, and there's lots of guys to stay competitive and keep those sponsors and to improve the sport. That's a great thing. And so what Supercross is doing is that they're getting rid of all of the restrictions. They're getting rid of the points thing, the rider age thing, and the amount of championships you can win as a 250 rider. And so you can
really,
they're pretty much making it so if you want to be a career 250 guy, that is totally okay. And the reason that I think they're doing this is because I don't really think anybody wants to be a career 250 guy. Because it just means like, yeah, you're in the lights class for your whole career, like whatever. You're not good enough to be in the 450 class, which I think a lot of people see themselves as that too and want to be better. So I like that they're doing this because it makes it so people don't get pushed to the 450 class super fast and then totally fade out and totally lose their chance at having a good career. Because there's a lot of times where guys will do really good in their first couple seasons of 250s and do really well and are instantly pushed to the 450 class where it's way harder and just get ruined by some guys, and they'll come out with more injuries and they're on a faster bike and they're not used to handling it, and they start getting pushed out by other riders that have moved up and can do it. And I think it's going to benefit a lot of people. I hope it does. There's a lot of people that have spent a long time on 250s, and there's a lot of people that have gone up to 450s and totally have messed up everything. So that's a good way of putting it. They just can't keep up with all the really fast guys, or they can't get used to it as fast. So this is a quote from Adam Bailey. He's a Supercross like a commissioner, and it says, "We want to ensure we're doing everything we can to give Supercross athletes the best possible career opportunities and increase longevity. A rider-first commitment is core to SX Global's mission, and we feel that not implementing age or point limitations in the SX2 class is the right move for this sport and its competitors." Adam Bailey. So that's the World Supercross is what this is. So for the first time in the history of Supercross, an official world championship will be crowned in the 250 SX2 class of FIM World Supercross Championship. So to let people know exactly what I'm saying, this is not Monster Energy Supercross. This is Global World Supercross. So Monster Energy Supercross will still. Well, I don't think they're gonna go through. I think they're gonna also change this, but they haven't announced it yet. But that's what I'm saying. That this is World Supercross is what we're talking about right now. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool that they do it. It's gonna help a lot of people out. So
Yeah, the longevity thing definitely. I mean, you see it with some guys that do great, and then they just can't pull their weight, and then teams are like, oh, we're gonna drop you, or whatever the case may be.
yeah,
And then like them wanting to move you up, and then like having all these restrictions on age and whatnot, and how many championships you've won. Like, I don't think they should force you to move up based off of championships, especially, or your performance of being one of the best riders in that class. If anything, it's a challenge to everybody else to beat you,
yeah,
and say like, hey, I'm the fastest, fucking come get it. If you can't perform as well as I can, I'm going to be on top still.
yeah. Exactly. So
But I mean, that's kind of interesting too. That only kind of relates to the 250 class. I mean, because for 450 class, I mean, if you're fucking winning on top, they're not gonna say shit.
yeah,
I don't think,
no, they
because
won't.
there's nowhere for you to go after 450.
Yeah, exactly. They can't push you
Right.
out. They're not going to get rid of you. If you're winning, they'll keep you around. They're not gonna like the 250 class. You win a few, and you get all those points, and then the next year you win a few and get all those points. They're gonna push you out of the class, and then that's why the 450 class gets so stacked a lot, because they just push everybody out of the 250 class, and then every time seems like there's champions in the 250 class, they're instantly pushed to the 450 class, and then those guys never become champions. Like
Yeah.
Cincerillo, Dylan Ferrandis, and so far Sexton and a bunch of guys. So it'll be interesting to see how Monster Energy Supercross comes back to this and sees what the Global World Supercross guys are doing. So this Global World Supercross thing is going to be pretty cool. They pretty much next year, all these teams pretty much have a decision on who they want on their team and who they want for outdoor pro motocross and who they want for Global World Supercross. So there's going to be teams that travel the world to do this World Supercross thing, and then there's going to be teams that stay to the pro motocross thing. I really don't want to see pro motocross fade, but I also want to see both of these organizations thrive. So I think it'll be cool to watch the World Supercross stage grow. They're trying to get a championship series. Well, if you don't know what this is, they're trying to get there's Aussie guys are starting this thing, World Supercross, and they want to get a championship series that is actual world championship series. So they will travel to most countries with all these Supercross teams will travel to most countries, and so every rider will pretty much be riding in their home country at one point. And they will crown a 450 and a singular 250 world champion instead of having what Monster Energy Supercross does, instead of having the East and West Coast stuff. So that would be pretty cool to win this series. Would technically mean that you are the best 450 and 250 rider in the world.
In the world. That's insane.
Instead of being in America and you win like Eli won the title this last year for 450s, and well, Eli Tomac's the 450 world champion, and it's not really world, because it's just United States. Like, yes, a lot of riders come in from their home countries to race Supercross in America, but there's also an amazing amount of talent in Europe Jeffrey Hurlings and Antonio Caroli, who has just, come over here for the first time after retiring. And when he was over there, he won 7 world championships of their own. So this whole global supercross thing is going to be super cool. It's going to be one of the most rewarding things out of two-wheel sports, because you will be the best 450 or 250 dirt bike rider in the world. So it's going to be
Man,
cool to
that's
see.
crazy. That would be
Yeah.
very cool. That would push a lot of these very top guys to do it. I feel like, not only for the money and the clout, but just to do it. That'd be awesome. You know, travel all these countries. And I feel like it would grow Supercross as a sport, definitely in a lot of countries that it's not as big, um, and introduce a sport to a lot more people. I mean, like you were saying, AMA Supercross is it's the biggest in the world right now. I mean, at least in that you hear of, because but it only pertains to the USA. All these other guys come from other countries to do it here because they don't have that kind of stuff in their countries. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you have like MXGP and you have your World Supercross, but those are big, but they're not, I guess, as hyped up as AMA Supercross. I mean, you see AMA Supercross going to every single damn near state that they go to. They're fucking like sold out, huge stadiums. People love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would bring a lot of people to riding, a lot of people to enjoy the sport even more than it is. And I did make it bigger than probably a lot of other sports like F1. I mean, like that's kind of like F1 to here, not a lot of people in the States are into F1 racing because we don't really have it here.
Yeah.
Um, but in some other countries, that's like their biggest thing. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of like that. But yeah, it'd be very cool, very interesting to see where that goes and what direction that goes.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's pretty awesome that'll be around. I'm really curious to see how the teams of Supercross and Pro Motocross go around it technically, because Europe side MXGP, they have one singular race series, and that's MXGP. They do an outdoor race series where it's all technically pro motocross. Just that's it. They don't have a Supercross series in Europe. All those guys that race all those outdoor races, they don't have Supercross. So they get one series, but we have two. So they have a nice break. They have a good time off. It's like football, where you have football season and then you wait all the way around until the next football season. You don't have football and then 2 weeks later you have flag football, all the same guys. For our guys,
Yeah.
we have Supercross, and then literally 2 weeks after Supercross ends, you have Pro Motocross, and then after Pro Motocross ends, you have 3 months, and then it's Pro Supercross. You don't have a break. You don't get any time to think or uh, eat a burger or go on vacation. You have to be
Yeah.
training, and everybody forgets about your title that you just won. You have to go race again in the next, couple months or couple weeks. And so with this World Supercross thing coming into effect, that would be a third championship. And
Yeah.
that's just impossible for our guys. So you would either have to choose between AMA Supercross, FIM World Supercross, or Pro Motocross for our guys. And then the MXGP guys, they would be getting a second one. So if the World Supercross guys were smart, they would make it so it's in the MXGP off season, so that those guys could race all their
Hmm.
MXGP races, and then once it ended, they would go do World Supercross. Even though a lot of those guys are probably not going to be up for it because they never raced Supercross in their life, because that all they've ever done is motocross, outdoor stuff, big tracks, fast speeds, huge jumps, instead of really tight, sharp corners, little jumps, big air, super fast, really tight, like small gaps, little spacing for passes. Like Supercross is super technical, and it takes a lot of time and effort to get used to and get. That's why the distance between Supercross and Pro Motocross is 2 weeks, and then Pro Motocross to Supercross is like 3 months because it takes that much time to prep. Guys are already like in the middle of Supercross. Guys are already prepping for motocross because who doesn't want to ride on motocross suspension and motocross tracks? They're just that much better. Like they're more exhausting in the long run after doing 30-minute motos. That's hella exhausting. But the suspension, the everything is just so much less brutal than Supercross. So it takes its ins and outs, but um, I don't know. I don't like it, but I like it at the same time. I like that there's more into Supercross. I get to watch another series of Supercross and guys that are racing. But it's also going to be a bummer to see, there's guys that are going to skip out on the World Supercross thing because of AMA Supercross or Pro Motocross. There's going to be a lot more money in different things because there's guys skipping out on it. So one guy like maybe Eli Tomac goes and does World Supercross, and then Jason Anderson goes and wins the AMA Supercross because Tomac's not there. All right, so that's good for him. He's winning that title and everything, but Tomac's not there. He could be the best, but I don't know. It'll be weird, but it'll be cool at the same time. You'll see all these guys get to do things, but like, who is really the better, rider? I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how people can adapt to it and what kind of people will go into it. Definitely. Yeah. And it'll be kind of interesting to see because it won't be FIM producing these tracks. It'll be kind of interesting to see an outsider's kind of view on what their style and taste of these super tracks are going to be. And it'll be very interesting to see the different types of terrains around the world that these tracks take place at.
Yeah, the different dirts, the different stadiums, like, I'm pretty sure they're planning on doing like the Coliseum in Russia. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll be very cool to see. All
right. Just
moving on. You want to talk about some Stark?
I took some notes about it. I know
I got it pulled up
bikes
here.
Aren't super well received nowadays. Lots of people think that they're going to ruin the sport and everything. But there's lots of people that I have heard that are huge in the sport that think that they will never kind of take over in a sense. I think there'll always be a 250 and 450 class. And the only thing that I think that can really hurt is that they might take out one of those classes for a electric class in the future. That would be pretty far in the future because the technology is not there yet. But I have some cool things on the Stark Future Varg that are a good start. Obviously, the one that Josh Hill was testing for that one company that I'm spacing out on now. He did the Red Bull Straight Rhythm on it, but they went out of business, and so that set back the electric dirt bike industry
talking about
pretty
Alta?
Far. Yeah, Alta.
Yeah,
that set
Alta was.
They had a good bike. They had a good bike going, I think.
They did. They had a good bike. It was very, very similar to any other motocross bike. It looked good. People really seemed to like it. But it was one of the first, and it kind of just fell on its face. I heard they had a lot of issues with people, like they didn't like what people were doing with their bikes or something, and they had a lot of drama with that, and where they were at, like telling people to give them their bikes back for treating them certain ways because they didn't want their name to be involved with certain activities going on with how people were riding them.
Oh,
But
really?
I don't know. I feel like the electric scene is definitely coming back. You're definitely seeing a lot of, especially in the street bike industry, the motorcycle on the road bikes. You are seeing a lot of companies coming out with their new electric bikes, and they seem to be performing very well. Harley's got some, KTM's got some. I believe there's a few different companies out there that make them too. I think Yamaha may have one, but the performance is outstanding. And they're trying to. I think they're really going to start trying to push this into the motocross scene. I don't think you're going to see it from major manufacturers like Yamaha um, into motocross quite yet. It may be a few years, but you are starting to see a few of these up and coming companies making their own stuff, like Triumph, and also this new company Stark Future with their Varg motorcycle.
Yeah, so a few of the
I got
key
this thing pulled
points.
up right now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, it's a beautiful bike. I'll tell you that much.
It
It
looks
looks
good.
kind of crazy. There's a big ass battery pack in there, but it
Hmm.
is no bigger than any other motorcycle, and I guarantee it's lighter.
So it's actually not.
It's not
So,
lighter.
no.
It's
So the
110 kg. I don't know what that transfers to.
kilograms, yeah. It's, well, I'll look at it. But, the guy that works for Vital MX was testing it out. And, he was saying that since they use the same suspension as Yamaha, they use the KYB suspension forks and rear spring, which is going to be really cool. That they actually had the valve different because it's heavier than the Yamahas. So the valves are different, and so that the suspension acts more of the same for Yamahas, which is, it's needed. If you have a heavier bike, you have to have those different valves so that it reacts the same as Yamaha, because everybody loves that Yamaha suspension feel. So
Well,
that's one
I
huge
got
thing
some
about
news
it.
for you.
What's that?
It ain't heavier. The new YZ450F is 245 pounds, and the Stark Varg is 242.5 pounds.
Oh, so they got 3 pounds difference.
3 pound difference. Hey, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Unless you're a fat fuck riding this thing, then probably ain't gonna make a difference.
No.
But if you're a little jockey race boy, it's probably gonna make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, so I got a few things on that. So they come with Brembo brakes and KTM spec wheels, hubs, and axles. And that's also the swing arm. They have the same swing arm as KTM. The display for your battery, for your power delivery, for all your settings and everything is just a smartphone. And it literally, the bike comes with a smartphone, and it's not like a labeled phone or anything. I think it's just a Stark
It's a
phone.
Android Stark phone.
Oh,
It's their
okay, Android.
branded of Android.
Yeah. So literally
It
just
allows you to customize the bike, adjusting to the power curve. You can adjust the power
mhm.
curve, engine braking, flywheel effect, and traction control to make the perfect bike for any rider in track.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it says it on there, but it magnetizes to the bars there, and it charges through the bars and everything. And then once it magnetizes there,
No, I haven't seen that.
it shows the display of what's going on with your bike. So
Yeah, that's a good looking bike, man.
it
It is
also
very
uses
cool.
the battery pack as part of its frame. And so what it does is that since the battery pack is so far forward in the frame and stuff, and there's all that weight in the front, they actually put the pegs back farther so that your weight would be more on the back wheel for traction, and that battery pack is more on the front side for that turning. So I guess it turns very well, and it also, those pegs that sit more backwards, have a really good planting position for that rear tire. So that's pretty smart
Yeah.
on them to incorporate that. And but the bad thing about that is that it's not a quick changing battery, so it's actually attached to the frame. So what they were saying is that for two guys, it would take about probably 10 minutes to take the whole battery out if there's two people. And if you had another one to put in, but to have another one, I think is literally about half the cost of the bike. So to have two battery packs would
Yeah, that's a lot of
literally
money.
cost a bike and a half. So
And this bike's starting at $1,300. So it is
1,300. That's it.
13,000.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jesus, what?
No,
Yeah,
$13,000.
$13,000. So when they didn't they one thing that they don't really like, is there a thing on there that has range? Like, do
Yeah,
they give you a
so
range?
they got some specs here. It's the bike is 80 horsepower. It's 110 kilograms. Torque's 938 newton meters. I don't know what that transfers to. There's 100 plus ride modes, 6 hours of riding time, which that's pretty impressive. I mean, just like I wonder if that's being conservative or like really rough
Probably.
riding on it. But I mean, that's long enough to do any moto session that you're gonna do, and it's 1 to 2 hour charging time for that battery.
Yeah, they say if it's 0% battery, that it takes 2 hours. If you're plugged into a normal outlet in a house, it would take 2 hours to full charge. So
No,
there's a
that's
plus
interesting.
side.
I've seen with other bikes. I don't know if they incorporate it in this bike, but where the bike is changeable for output power to where you could tune it down to be race a 250 class and tune it up to race in a 450 class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the guy
I didn't
said, I mean, he
see.
was riding the 60 horse version, and he said it accelerates harder than a 450. But like, who really knows if you're not riding
Oh,
them
I'm
back to
sure.
back?
I mean, the electric bikes. I mean, just like electric cars. It's not gradual power. You don't build power.
Mm-hmm.
It's instantaneous. So I mean, it would have to have its own class if you're racing these. It would not. It wouldn't match up to any um, gas bike. I mean, not even close. It would just pull away. Especially, I mean, even out of corners, like anything, it's just gonna pull you. It's the thing's gonna be fast as
It's kind
hell.
of sad because it kind of
Um,
just ruins the skill of riding a dirt bike. Like,
yeah,
they
it kind of
literally give
ruins
you
the
an
skill like
option to
that.
where you can put the front brake on one side of the bars and the back brake on the other side. You don't have to do anything with your feet. You don't have to shift. You don't have to put the back brake on your feet. You don't have to
Yeah,
put a clutch lever on it. All it takes is the twist of the throttle and you're flying. Like, you don't have to go around a corner and remind yourself to shift down into the corner and then coming out of the corner shift up before that lip for the jump. It's literally just to
yeah.
slow down, turn the corner, take off at full speed. Like, the guy that was riding it was saying it's really hard to get used to in that sense if you're a previous rider, but if you grow up on electric bikes, you could be hella fast on an electric bike because it's not even that hard. But you can't get on a gas bike and ride because you don't know how to ride a clutch
Yeah,
and you're
it
not
takes
good
the
in the woods.
technicality out of it for sure. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely do see disadvantages with that. But it'll be
Because
interesting to see what it
when
kind
you
of.
go off a jump and you're in the middle of the air and you brake tap, your front end goes down, right? But if you need to bring your front end up and you twist the throttle, there's a rev limiter. You sit there, and it brings the front end up to what your that rev limiter is going at. But imagine if there's no rev limiter and it goes up to max speed in the middle of the air. You twist that throttle and that rear
Yeah.
tire goes to max speed. You could be doing a backflip and land right on your head. Like, it'd be so hard to get
Yeah.
used to. You just have to be really careful.
Definitely. That is a very interesting thing. I mean, you see that with like almost like a RC car.
Exactly.
Because of how much power they have to the body, which is exactly like these motorcycles, how much power they're outputting. Um, I mean, with an RC car, you give it too much gas, it's gonna do flips in the air. I didn't even think about that. That is a very
Yeah.
interesting thought.
It's gonna be really, like, if people actually get this to ride every day. I mean, it's gonna be hard to get used to, but obviously people will get used to it and people will ride it. But it's one of those things where I think the customization and the versatility and everything and the easiness of it could ruin motocross and supercross, but it could also not, because you can make there's so much more testing and involvement in gas and motorized vehicles and stuff that it keeps that competitive edge there, and it keeps those bikes from being the same. And like, if you have an electric bike cross platform, I mean, the only thing that'd be different is like parts, components. Everything would be the same and motorized. Like, you literally can tune your bike up or down for however fast you want it, so it's not really a huge difference with like motorized stuff. If you have different pistons, if you have different heads, like anything like that, so you can literally do it on the fly. So I can totally see why people would want these and like go for them and stuff, because how easy it is, how little maintenance. That's one big plus, is that there's like no maintenance. You barely have to do anything. You might need to switch out sprockets, tighten the chain, but there's no oils, there's no liquids, there's no filters, no rings, no heads, no gaskets, no hour meters, no nothing. It's just battery and battery life.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's kind of interesting how I'd like to see like how their batteries compare to, or like what are they using to protect their batteries. Because I know with these battery systems, they can be dangerous. I mean, even you see it in electric vehicles. If an electric vehicle like a Tesla gets in a fender bender, it's totaled because
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to take a chance of it driving down the road again and it blowing up on them, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it is interesting to see how it'd be interesting to see what they're doing to protect these batteries. And also another thing is of how they're cooling them. I know they're air cooled, but um, it'd be interesting to see how they perform out in the desert or in the dunes where it's hot as shit and they're being beaten up by the sun all day long and they're going up big sand hills. I can't imagine that they take it too lightly. And that, and then I mean, it's a battery. Batteries, they get hot, and then if they have a protective system in that bike, I wonder if it's going to shut it down. You know, kind of like your phone. If you leave it out in the sun too long, it has a protective thing in it to where it's going to shut your phone down so it doesn't blow up because of the
Mm-hmm.
batteries. So I wonder how that'll kind of play into effect there. But
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even
nonetheless, it
think
is a
about
very
that.
interesting bike. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'd love to hear more about it. Um, and see what goes on with it in the future.
Yeah, for a fact, not everybody's gonna buy it for motocross. There's gonna be tons of people out there that go buy it and then go and race, trails, and go do outdoor rides in the mud and in the desert. And it's not gonna be such a, what they're thinking it's gonna be.
Well, that's cool. I mean, you don't get that on any other bike that's so versatile. You know, I mean, you get
Mm-hmm.
some bikes like, I mean, your bike is your KTM 350 is pretty good in trail. Like it's really good trails, good in the desert, decent at motocross stuff.
Mm-hmm.
but this bike can be, I mean, it's so the maintenance of it is nothing. If you got your suspension set up good to where you could change it out for certain things if you wanted, or like adjust it for whatever, I can see you doing anything with this bike. You
Yeah,
know,
you can.
it's got the power, it's got the capability to do damn near anything you want to do with it. So that
Yeah,
is another cool thing about it. Instead
yeah,
of
it's
going
pretty
out and
cool. I
buying,
mean, for a play bike.
yeah, I mean, it's better than going to buy a factory bike or something. It's good for motocross. I mean, you've seen it too. You go buy a KX or YZ 250 F or whatever that has nothing done to it. They fucking suck in the woods. I mean, just because they don't have the flywheel or the correct clutch or right sized tires or whatnot. But none of that takes effect with these bikes because they're all electric. They have no drivetrain components other than this, um, the output of the motor that's turning that front sprocket. Um, but every other thing is adjustable. You can change out your sprockets or change out your tire. Um, which in the long run makes it cheaper for maintenance, but also if you want to do like different things with that, you can. But at
Yeah,
the
but
same
like you were
time,
saying, if you wad it and ruin some parts, like do you have to bring the bike back because it's ruined? Or can you just replace
yeah,
some
I
parts
don't.
and keep going? Like that's the one thing
Now,
like
if you
you were saying
can
about
replace,
Tesla.
yeah, if you could replace a battery, that would make sense. The rest of the bike doesn't fucking matter. But if the battery is the main issue, but if you can replace a battery, then that's cool. But like you're saying, it's probably half the price of the bike. That is not fucking cheap whatsoever. And it's be
It's like
interesting to
holding a
see what their
second motor with
warranties
you all the
on these
time.
battery systems are. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what their warranties are, um, and how much abuse those bikes can take. Um, it'll also be interesting to see how their motors perform. I mean, you lay a motor if you lay it down really fucking good, it's probably gonna break it. I mean, I saw on that bike how it kind of hangs out there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of almost just like an engine case. You lay that thing wrong, you could probably fuck it up pretty good.
Put a hole in it, definitely.
But I don't know.
Yeah, but
It'll
that's
be
also another part. You're gonna put a
Yeah, it'll
hole
be
in it, and then you're gonna
interesting.
have to replace the whole motor, or can you replace the casing? Like on a dirt bike, there's all those are
E-
different parts, and you can just
Or
replace that part. You can't replace all the
it may come
cells
as a
inside of the motor.
yeah. It may come as a whole assembly. I don't know. You may have to replace both the battery and the
Yeah,
motor.
it'll be that's gonna be pretty crazy because people are gonna spend that much money to buy that bike, and then if you wad it up and crash, you're gonna have to go buy another one.
Yeah,
Like
that's crazy. It's just trash at that point. You can't do anything with it.
yeah. And how many hours can you put on a bike before the battery stops working and stuff? Like I've got 160 some
Yeah.
hours on my KTM. Can you put that much on that bike and it still perform optimally? Can you fill it up
hmm
with gas, aka plug it in, and it still perform like it was on 0 hours? You know, because I'm sure my bike's lost a little
Yeah,
power
and you
being
see that.
160 hours, but I've taken really good care of it, and I think that it can still perform like it did when I got it off the showroom floor.
Yeah. Oh, and you can always go get an engine refresh.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, that is another interesting thing. Is if it's getting beat up over time, especially in heat and stuff, diminishing the battery. Is that going to take power away? Is that going to take more longer charge time and riding time away? Um, and if so, like you're going to be spending quite a bit of money to replace these batteries if they're taking shits on you. And I mean, you have issues with batteries. Batteries can be faulty. Um, I mean, fuck, you've seen it in car batteries before. Go get a battery, maybe it'll last you 2 weeks, and then it'll take a shit on you. So it'll be, I don't know, it'll be interesting. Let's see.
Yeah, it's not like they're
It's
going to
definitely
be
not
vintage
cheap.
bikes or anything.
Yeah, no.
You can't
I mean,
sit
once
in your
that bike,
garage for years and
I
then just charge them up and then they work again. I'm sure that won't happen. I'm sure
You're going to
yeah,
have to replace parts
no.
like old bikes. And so,
I don't think these are secondhand bikes either. I mean, I don't think you could go out there and trust buying somebody else's electric bike. You would definitely want to go buy one that's new. But at the price point that they're at, like, why the fuck would I even go buy it? You know, unless I
yeah,
had
it's almost
stupid
like buying
money.
somebody's iPhone. Like, oh, yeah, charges and everything. It's just a phone. And then you get it and it dies every other day at 50%, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what's going to happen then? Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like similar though with motorized bikes. People are buying new hour meters and switching out hour meters and selling their bike, saying there's barely any hours on it. Like, people are dicks, and people are gonna ruin some people's lives that way. Some kid's gonna buy a new bike, and it's gonna be, his first bike bought used and everything, and it's gonna have some 100 and some hours on it. It's only got a 20-hour meter on it. It's like, people suck, and it's gonna happen, and people are gonna spend way too much money for these things.
Yeah. All right. You want to move on to the new gas guys?
Yeah, the BRC company, I forget what it stands for, but they make a board to 500 for the 2023 300 gas EC 300 two-stroke. It's on YouTube at Kaplan America, Kaplan America on YouTube. It's pretty much a KTM motor, just oil injected, has a headlight and enduro trip meter, which is just pretty much all the good stuff for the 300. But this kit allows you to board out to a 500cc motor, so it's practically a gas 500 after you get this kit on it.
Wow.
So it'll be pretty cool to see if those guys. I'm gonna watch their build on it, but it'll be pretty cool. I was hoping that gas was gonna actually make a 500, but it's not really practical anymore, I guess. With how
Yeah.
much power a 300
Unless
puts out.
the lawsuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool though to see a company come out with one, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think the KTM 300 is the highest you're ever going to get now.
Yeah, well, they do make. There's other companies like Marco. Or is that right? Marco, I think I'm saying it right, but they make like a 700. It's pretty crazy sounding, but it's like a road bike, like a dual sport kind of thing. But they're not a popular company.
Mm-hmm.
They're not super big or anything, so I'm sure it doesn't have all the best technology on it. That same YouTube channel, Kaplan America, they like blew one up because it was getting too lean and stuff, and it wasn't running right and everything. So you have decades in the future technology on these gas Husqvarna KTMs because of how much time they've spent. They revise their two strokes every year and a half, 2 years. And I mean, the best other than them is Yamaha, which they've been running the same two-stroke engines for the last decade. So everybody's got some catching up to do, but I just thought that was cool. Wanted to throw that in there, but anyway, you got anything else? You want to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up, man. Thank you everybody for listening. This has been episode number 5. Thank you very much for listening. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube. We have an Instagram and a TikTok account, and more to come in the future. I'm your host and producer, Kieran. This is my co-host, Colton, and we'll see you on the next one, guys.
Peace out.